Welcome back. The first stage on our journey is the monolith. Let's see what it is. The monolith is probably the simplest design. We have basically one class. This box here represents one class, and then we try to put all the functionality what we want to implement into this box. So if we go a bit further from the UML design and we'll have a look a bit on the code, I try to here sketch up some pseudocode. So this is not a real programming language. It is a kind of mixture of different programming languages, but I hope it will look familiar enough that you will be follow along. So let's say we have here this class, this take photo panel class, and then this has the constructor. This is the second line. And then we have also two members. So it's quite usual that if you have such an imperative GUI code, then you will have the components of your panel as members. So we have a button. This is the take photo button, and then we have a resolution selector combo bar. What we do here in the constructor is whenever the take photo button is pressed, then we will do something. And this is the yellow, this is the light green part here. So whenever the button is pressed, the on pressed, what was registered inside the on pressed function, that will be called. So what we have there is kind of a inline function. Let's say it's a lambda function that takes the event. By the way, we don't use this event in this example, but whenever the button is pressed, this function is called, and then in the first step, we read out the selected resolution. We store it in this variable, and then we start talking to the hardware. We are initializing the camera, reading out the pixels, and then putting it into a raw image variable. And then from this raw image variable, we are applying now our very smart algorithm that is beautifying the picture. And then in the last step, we just go and then we save it in this photo.jpg file. This is quite simple. And then we will see here that what doesn't really feel good here that we put everything into one class. So whenever I want to use here a variable, then it is quite often inside the same scope, and then we will have shadowing of variables or maybe just misusing variables, and then this makes it quite complicated. Probably you have heard about the structured programming. This is also mentioned by the clean code. And then if we take a look here, then we can apply the structured programming paradigm, and then we can try to break down our huge big function into smaller functions. As you can see, it is still the monolith approach, because then we still have only one class. I don't really consider it significantly better when everything was put into one class, but actually this is a tiny step forward. As you can see, we still have the constructor, and then in the constructor we are registering again the function, but now this function is not implementing directly the functionality, but it is delegating it onto this on photo button pressed function. Then it goes on. And then in this on photo pressed button, we do something very similar, but look here, because in the second and the third line of this function, we don't talk to the hardware directly, or we don't do the algorithm directly here, but these are also delegated to some sub functions, so to the grab image and then beautify functions. And then we also have the same save image, and then this was also delegated into another function. This is improving our code quite much, because if somebody is reading our code, then it's very easy to be lost in the details. But now we will have a very clear guidance here. So when the photo button is pressed, then we are calling this callback. So it is quite easy to follow along. And then in the on photo button pressed, we see the sketch of the algorithm. So what are the main steps? We are not overwhelmed here by details, but we can really see what are the major steps of the algorithm. If we are interested in the lower level things like how to grab an image, how to initialize a camera and so on, then we can go one level deeper. But at least our code got some structure. If we take it from another perspective, this is the deployment. The deployment means how your classes are organized into libraries, into executables. It is quite often for such a monolith approach that who is implementing it is creating one executable, putting that executable into the class, into the executable. The class is put into the executable, and basically that's it. There is not much variability here. This is quite common approach for prototyping, but hopefully the code is not stay like that. So this is not really a production ready approach. Let's see that what we have here. So the application, let's say, barely works. So it does the trick. It takes an image and then applies the beautifying filter, but probably that is all what we can say about it, that it does good. Everything is just dumped into a single class. So we have seen all the UI logic. So for example, when the button is pressed, then what we should do. The business logic is also there. So how to apply the beautifying filter on an image. And then we have also some low-level sensor access, so some peripheral access, so how to access the camera. This is a very rigid architecture, very hard to maintain. So if you want to make here different product variants, it is going to be really hard because you have one executable, and then if you want to use it with a different camera sensor, then probably you will make another executable that you take everything and basically just copy paste, and this will be really error prone. Because if you fix a bug in one version, then you will have to make sure that in all variants you are fixing the bug. So there is no code sharing between them. Another very big problem is that the valuable business logic is mixed up with all the peripherals. So the peripheral, I mean not only the sensors, but to me also the UI. So the user access is also just a peripheral. And then we can make here a distinction because our valuable business logic is hopefully something really valuable that is permanent for our business. But actually, what kind of UI technology or what kind of sensor we are using at the moment, it is probably changing much often in the future. So that's why somehow separating this in the future would make sense. But at the moment, we don't focus on that. If you want to test this application, this is also really hard because if you want to test it, there is only one single block. And then the best you can do is that you start the application, you start clicking around, and then you will see if it is possible or if it is working or not. There are some tools that can automate that. So basically this clicking around is done by some tool, and then it is taking a screenshot and comparing it to some um, some template, but just change one label or one color there, and the template is probably not matching anymore. Uh, Probably there are some more sophisticated approaches in this area, but I would say this is not really a testable code. The other disadvantage is to hard code it and bind it so strongly with the UI is that if you want to bind it into a CA chain or you want to do some automation, then it is quite hard. By the automation, I mean that you want to take a camera photo in every 5 minutes, and then you want to apply the beauty filter, and then you want to save it. But actually, this is quite hard because if you want to make, let's say, a Python script to automate it, then from the Python script you have to go and then you have to somehow trigger the click event on the application, and this is not really an elegant way. We are talking about architecture. If we talk about architecture, then this kind of building here, this cave house or rock house, then this is kind of we can use it as an analogy. So as you can see, everything is built out of one big monolith. So the functionality is there because you can see there are entrances or kind of windows on that, so you can go there, you can spend the night there, but you can't really say much more about it. You can hardly fit here windows or doors, because then everything is very special. Everything has to be perfectly fitted here, and that's why it is not really a standardized environment. Actually, after starting with this very beginning level architecture, then let's see that what could be the things that helping us to step to the next level. So I was our idea was revolving always around that everything is in one block. And now let's try to separate these concerns and then split up our code into different components. So in the next video, we will see how we can do that.